Hello, my friend and earthly neighbor, and welcome to the final week in what I call Jumpstart January. And the universe has left the most exciting part of January to the last week. We have the first lunar eclipse of 2018. It is in Leo, it is in step 11, and if you're not in integrity, Sensei says you may be in trouble. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today, a delightful way to kickstart the day. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Sensei Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, my friend. Namaste. Well, we have reached the final week of what I call Jumpstart January, and the universe has waited to the very last minute, literally, for the biggest event of the month. We have a lunar eclipse in Leo on Wednesday, January 31st. This will involve a tug-of-war between your heart's integrity and where you truly belong in the world. And I'm predicting a major shift for most people, including the global, national, and international perspectives this week. And it may be full of surprises because we're talking about Aquarius after all. So in this week's show, I'm going to first walk you through the whole week, what leads up to the eclipse and the aftermath of the eclipse in my segment this week. And later in our tea time, I'm going to dive deep for all 12 signs and your risings for what the eclipse means for you. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, January 29th to Friday, February 2nd, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast. Analyzing the week at a glance, I would say it's climb, climb, breakdown, adjust, breakthrough. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and super passionate. A grand trine in water unites your emotions, and step 9 means it's time to take action. On Tuesday, it's sunny and creative. Step 10 rules the day, and you are holding space for where you truly belong. On Wednesday, it's the lunar eclipse in Leo. Step 11 rules the day, and you are healing and repairing your trajectory. On Thursday, it's sunny and learning as you scatter to find your new direction, and step 12 guides you to expand. And then on Friday, it's sunny and shifting. Step 13 rules the day, and the moon in Virgo makes everything quite real. Well, looking at the week ahead, it really is all about the lunar eclipse. So in our next segment, I'm going to walk you through the week and the aftermath. Taking a sneak peek at the upcoming week, I'm coining this week Breaking Free. Now, just to catch up to speed of our story, last week we entered into the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is the state of awareness that is involved in our belonging consciousness. In free will, in manifestation energy, you belong with what vibrates like you. This is also known as the law of attraction. But the problem with belonging is we tend to use other influences other than the law of attraction to determine where we belong. A lot of times our ego decides where we belong, or our mind insists on where we belong, or our emotions insist on belonging somewhere because it's comfortable and it's familiar. So last week, the universe was saying it is time to detach from where you don't belong. And that left us probably feeling very uncomfortable, especially because we're not clear on where we do belong and we're not sure what the next step is. This week, with the lunar eclipse coming up, I argue we're going to break free entirely from that belonging and begin to navigate our way to the story we were born to live. Now, there's a few themes going on, or planets trending, that I want to talk about. First of all, Saturn. Saturn has moved into Capricorn for the first time in 29.5 years, and it means that it's time for us to take responsibility of our responsibilities. Last week, Saturn entered into step 4, which means it was time to detach from the control mechanisms that you once thought you belonged using. And these control mechanisms could be anything under the sun. It could be manipulation, it could be surrendering to your feelings, it could be controlling others or trying to control others. But the universe said last week, that cannot continue. That trend continues this week. However, with the eclipse, I believe it will be the finalization of that control. So this eclipse likely will force you to let go entirely of a certain control mechanism and open up to a new one. Saturn will be at step 4 all week and miraculously moves to step 5 the day after the eclipse, which means us trying to comprehend intellectually where to go next. Another interesting trend this week is that Mars has moved into Sagittarius. This is important because Sagittarius is where the galactic center is, and it tells us the story we were born to live. Now, we have been doing a lot of work with the galactic center. That's because Saturn was in Sagittarius for a long time, so we were getting very serious about what we believed. And of course, in December, we had a Mercury retrograde that literally went from step 29 Sag all the way back to step 13. That meant that we were rethinking what our story was and recalculating where to go next with our story. But again, it has all been intellectual. It's all been conceptual. It has all been really a fairy tale to us. But this week, I argue that story gets real. It gets real because Mars moves into Sagittarius and begins to push that story forward. And it tells me that whatever happens with this particular eclipse on Wednesday is tied, or at least the first chapter of the story you were born to live. Another interesting trend I want to point out is Uranus. Uranus went direct on January 3rd. Uranus is our innovation energy. And the reason why Uranus is so important is because Uranus rules Aquarius. It is the source energy of Aquarius. Uranus has been in Aries for quite a long time now, and it's been pushing us to innovate our ego, our character, and our behavior. Well, with Uranus direct, that means people have been moving forward on their own personal story, on their own character development. And this entire month, Uranus has been at step 24, which means we have been opening up to this new character, but not necessarily embodying the character. Well, as of Saturday, Uranus will shift to step 25, which means that you will see your character shift this week, and you'll be moving to a new energy at the end of the week that is trying to align your character with your higher self. So I want to walk you through the week here and kind of talk you through the period before the eclipse and then talk about the aftermath that will happen after the eclipse. On Monday, step 9 rules the day, and we have a grand trine in water. And what a grand trine in water tells me and every astrologer is that we will be emotionally maturing. What happens is the moon will be in Cancer. It'll trine over to Jupiter in Scorpio and down to Neptune in Pisces at step 12. Now, Jupiter's at step 21 Scorpio, so this says that on Monday, you will be emotionally adjusting to new boundaries, new emotional comfort zones, getting used to your life changing and getting used to having to protect your feelings because of life changing. Having it trine into Neptune at step 12 says to me that this is a new journey for your soul. So we are literally, in my opinion, beginning to write new karma. So be conscientious of what you do right now. It will face you in the next life, in my opinion. So Monday is going to be an interesting day because of the combination of step 9 ruling, meaning our ego is out and about, and we are emotionally maturing. I'm predicting that a lot of people will say stupid things and do stupid things on Monday, and this will force you to emotionally grow up. Be advised that you're also going to be very sensitive emotionally, sensitive to what other people do, sensitive to your personal comfort zones, sensitive to your karmic past. So the moral of the story on Monday is move forward with the story that you know and step away from where you do not belong, even though you may not know where you do. Now on Tuesday, we have stepped away. Step 10 rules the day. I'm predicting to be sunny and creative. And Tuesday is really where you are holding space and trying to feel okay and grounded with whatever you have detached from. And it kind of depends on what your sign is. We'll talk about this in the tea time. But everyone is stepping away this week from an old heartfelt integrity model. All right? Everyone is stepping away from a part of life they once thought they belonged. and no one is quite clear on where they do belong yet. I don't expect that to be happening until the solar eclipse that happens in Aquarius, which will be on February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. So Tuesday, you're basically treading water. You know you don't belong in one place, but you don't know where you belong next. And so I call it holding space. It might be a day of a little bit of anxiety, and Mars will be at step 2 Sagittarius, which means you'll likely question your story. You'll wonder if your story is going in the right direction. You'll wonder if you're making the right choice. And Sensei says you want to hold and wait. Then comes the lunar eclipse. The eclipse happens on Wednesday. I'm actually coining this day sunny and healing because although the eclipses can be somewhat destructive, the intention of the universe is to bring you into healing and bring you into integrity. I'm expecting this eclipse to be somewhat dramatic because we will have a full moon in Leo, which means everyone's inner child and inner baby is going to be out and about, and we will be focusing on where reality is. And it's my guess that for most people on the planet, their heart will be dissatisfied with where their life is. Sure, you have detached from where you don't belong, but you're not clear on where you do belong, and so I'm expecting some temper tantrums from a lot of people. Be very careful on Wednesday. I wouldn't necessarily plan to go parachuting, okay, or skiing or anything that could put your life in danger just because accidents do happen, particularly in an eclipse. Thursday, I call it sunny and learning. The moon will be full in Leo for most of the day, but then we'll shift into Virgo. And so I think the reality of life will really hit people on Thursday. It might be the hardest day of the week, but it is also the day where you will learn the most, all right? So a lot of times when people are put in desperate situations or put into situations they never imagined, that's when the best of your soul and creativity comes to the surface. So the moral of Thursday is to remain optimistic. And the interesting thing about Thursday is Mercury moves into Aquarius, so your mind now starts to really focus on where you truly belong. And then on Friday, it's a mysterious day. Step 13 rules the day on Friday, and step 13 is a Grandmaster step of Aquarius. So I'm expecting by the end of the week for you to have a new clarity about where you should point your direction on belonging. I don't think you'll be absolutely clear, but I think you'll get the general subject, or you will get the general town, or the general direction, east, west, north, or south. Now, because it's step 13, we may have a second aftershock of the lunar eclipse, or it may be the day that you actually experience the lunar eclipse. The other thing about Friday is that Mars will be at step 4 Sagittarius, so it's a simultaneous harmonic is what I call it. You will experience a new direction for your belonging, and the story you were born to live will take a new turn. So it could be a surprising hook at the end of the week, to borrow a television term. The last interesting note of Friday is this is the day when Saturn moves to step 5 Capricorn. So this means that we will have to take responsibility for our thoughts, responsibility for our intellect, responsibility for our communication, and usually that is because something profound has changed. So I want to get deeper into this lunar eclipse. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is the Leo lunar eclipse. Now, this is the first of 5 eclipses this year in 2018. We have 2 lunar eclipses this year and 3 solar eclipses. If you don't know, lunar eclipses tend to be destructive in nature. Things usually fall apart. But these are things that were probably overdue, long overdue to fall apart. So in most cases in my life, what falls apart in an eclipse was something I was already concerned that would fall apart, or I already knew it was standing on kind of wobbly legs, so to speak. The 3 solar eclipses this year are constructive, and that tells you right away that the universe has more intention this year to construct than it has to destruct. But this is the first destructive eclipse. The eclipse will happen on Wednesday, January 31st. It occurs around 8 a.m. Eastern Time in North America, which is 5 a.m. Pacific Time. And the one thing I want to point out with an eclipse is, technically the energy of an eclipse can hit you 2 to 3 days prior or 2 to 3 days after an eclipse. It's a very powerful, life-changing eclipse. And because we're in Aquarius, we're in the energy of synergy energy. In other words, it's not just about the I, it's about the we. And because it's about the we, whatever eclipse breakdown you may experience is 100% tied to your community, to your friends, to your social circle, your sphere of influence. And this is one of the reasons why I don't think it will happen particularly dead on Wednesday morning for everybody, because it's kind of a domino effect. Some people will be affected early, that affects another person, that affects another person, and so on and so forth. Now, this eclipse will be at step 11, and this is probably why it's most profound to me and exciting, really. Step 11 is integrity. Integrity in spirituality is loving yourself, step 1, and loving the world, step 1. And I described this in my Friday Live that I did last week, so if you want a lot of depth as far as this eclipse, I would watch that show. But in essence, all of us are guilty of either not loving ourselves or not loving the world. We all have moments where this is happening in our life, particularly for the light walkers. Many light walkers out there are really good about loving the world, but they're really crappy about loving themselves. So if you're not standing on these 2 feet, 11, loving yourself and loving the world, then something could collapse. Something could collapse to demonstrate to you that you need to make changes and invest in loving yourself. Now, this is a full moon in Leo, which is the purest form of self-love there is. So this is going to get to the heart of whatever the matter is for you. It's not going to be some superficial, outside, cosmetic sort of change. It will be a change at the core. And because it's a change at the core, not the whole world, the world may not notice what your breakdown is. It may be completely inside your own experience of life and your own knowledge. So that's good. But at the same time, the sun will be at step 11, Aquarius, which means that you will see a reflection of how your inner self-love affects your outer world. So there will be outer world consequences to some regard in your sphere of influence or friendships or whatever that happen from this eclipse, although the epicenter of it will be your heart chakra, right in the center. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the last segment of this week, other planets, of course, are coming into a harmony that also affect this eclipse. It's not just between your heart and where you belong. As I mentioned, Saturn will be at step 4, which means there'll be some sort of harmonic in the sense that a way of controlling your life will likely change. So you have probably been overcompensating or undercompensating because you didn't love yourself or love the world, and that was a control mechanism you were using to keep things in alignment when you yourself weren't in alignment in your heart. So it won't just be the epicenter issue, it'll be whatever false control mechanisms you were using will probably collapse as well. You'll have to find a new paddle to row the boat. The other interesting aspect is there's a ton of spiritual energy in this eclipse. The sun will be conjoining Venus, which is at step 16, and that means that as you are understanding your integrity, you are coming into a new spiritual alignment with where you belong. So the universe is nudging us into our spirit. At the same time, Neptune is at step 12 Pisces, so this means our story, our karmic story, is moving on to a new chapter. So it tells us there's a new chapter at hand. Chiron is at step 25 Pisces, and that means that not only are we moving on to a new chapter, but we have cleared the runway for spiritual enlightenment. We've cleared our past fears from past lives of coming into a higher spiritual vibration. Many people on the planet have issues with spirituality from past life issues with the church. Jupiter will be at step 21, Scorpio, so that says that whatever shift happens, this will be entirely a new comfort zone for you. So you'll be pushed into a new arena of life that you probably haven't mapped out for safety, that you probably haven't understood where the boundaries are, where you have to literally go with what you feel in order to feel out what to do in the next chapter. And then Mars will be at the Grandmaster step 3 of Sagittarius. Mars is pushing for the story you were born to live to move forward, and having it at step 3 tells me that your story will be encoded with a new chapter or a change. Probably a turn of events, a hook or a twist in the story that you were not anticipating. But of course, it's part of the fun of being on planet Earth. So with that kind of premise set, I want to talk about how the eclipse will affect all 12 signs. And because it's an eclipse, you definitely want to pay attention to your rising sign or B story for my subscribers, because you're not only changing where you operate in the foreground, you are changing your legacy and your overall story arc. Okay, so pay attention to both. And as always, I'm going to put up the signs I'm talking about here on the side of the screen so you can skim through if you're short on time today or don't want to hear about other people. Aries. Aries, on this eclipse, will be releasing with the eclipse self-love issues. So Aries literally have not been loving themselves entirely in integrity. And by releasing these self-love issues, or by being faced with the fact that they have not been integrity with loving themselves, this will push them to a new social integrity, to where they truly belong in the world once they adjust the self-love inside their heart. And this is going to be a big shift for Aries. I would expect Aries to be changing neighborhoods, deciding to change their job status or their where they work within society. So we'll see Aries is making shifts. Tauruses. Tauruses are releasing their self-nurturing issues. So Tauruses have been out of integrity with how they love themselves and how they self-nurture their emotions. And since they have been out of integrity with that, it has prevented them from being in integrity with making all of their decisions for career and future. So this lunar eclipse will cut the legs off if you have not been nurturing yourself well, Taurus, and it will give you the legs to make the right decisions for yourself and your career and your future. Geminis. Geminis are releasing thinking issues. So Geminis, believe it or not, get stuck in thinking ruts, okay? They often think out of integrity, which means that they're thinking about fear and thinking about worry and thinking about negativity. So if you've been thinking negatively or out of integrity, that is going to fall apart. Any lies or miscommunications will probably be exposed, just so you know, with Jupiter and Scorpio. So any lying Geminis out there, watch out, okay? And what this is going to do is bring Geminis into an integrity about believing in themselves. So what this suggests is, if you're a Gemini or a Gemini rising that has not been believing in yourself, it's because your thoughts have been out of integrity. Cancers. Cancers are releasing self-esteem issues. So Cancers have not loved themselves. They've wanted to go out and nurture everyone instead of themselves. So they have self-esteem integrity issues. They've not loved themselves to the core like they're supposed to. And what this has caused them to not be able to trust themselves because they've not been loving themselves correctly. So Cancers will experience some sort of fallout. Whatever you're using to patch up your self-esteem, and it could be food or money or all sorts of distractions, that will probably fall away, and it will open up for new trust integrity with yourself. Leos. Leos are going to be affected probably the greatest, Leo and Leo risings, and of course Aquarius and Aquarius risings, because this eclipse happens along their spiritual conscious line. Leos are going to be releasing self-esteem character issues. So they literally have had behavior that is not self-loving. They've literally taken actions that are not self-loving. And so whatever non-self-loving behavior or non-self-loving character that they have been exhibiting, this is going to probably collapse and no longer work. What this does is build integrity with their marriage and their relationship to themselves. So by addressing the character flaws that are out of integrity or the actions to themselves that are out of integrity, it strengthens the integrity of their relationship to themselves in Aquarius. Virgos. Virgos are releasing fear issues, okay? So Virgos have been out of integrity because they have allowed fears to grip them, all right? And so any kind of fear issue is probably going to come to a head. That may mean that your fear becomes realized. And if your fear does become realized it was only a fear, okay? So I don't expect necessarily for you to fall to those fears. On the contrary, I think the universe is going to show you that you remain standing. But it will be time for Virgos to face whatever fears they have with themselves. And what this is going to do is allow them to come into health and daily work integrity. So what this suggests is Virgos, because of their fear, because they've been out of integrity with their fear, they have been unable to be healthy and happy in the moment. Libras. Libras are releasing issues where they have been out of integrity with friendships and society. And because it's hitting Libras in this one spot, I would not be surprised if we didn't see some Libras fall this week in the national headline. That's the cost of being a celebrity. When you're a celebrity, you serve as an example to others. So any Leos who have been out of integrity with the way they have been in society or have acted in society, or it could also be if Libras have friends that are out of integrity, the universe is going to say, you must disconnect from those friends. You must disconnect from this dishonest relationship to society. What this is going to do is bring Libras into full integrity with their heart. So that they're going to actually feel like they are loving themselves. And what this suggests is, if a Libra has been not doing well in the world, it is because they were not loving themselves in full integrity and they knew it. All right? Scorpios. Scorpios are releasing old, poor decisions, okay? They have made different decisions that were not loving to themselves, or they've made decisions that were not loving to the world and only loving to themselves. So they haven't been in full integrity when it comes to their decision-making processes. And because of that, the astrology suggests that they have been emotionally discontented and not feeling emotionally nurtured or secure. So if you are a Scorpio that has been having issues where you have anxiety or emotions around your security, the astrology suggests it's because you have made non-loving decisions for your life or for the world. So we may see Scorpios fall out of grace with career or legacy issues. They're another one to look out for this week in the public spotlight, where they may fall out of a power structure because they were abusing their power. Not all of them, just some, okay? Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are releasing self-belief issues. So Sagittariuses have not had belief in themselves because they have not loved themselves in their belief-making policy. That's like saying you believe in something you don't believe in just so you get along with other people. And it could be the contrary as well. They could be loving themselves, and some Sagittariuses could have been falsely leading people down the wrong belief structure path. So any integrity where you're out of integrity with believing in yourself, Sag, that will collapse this week. And what this leads to is integrity of your thinking. So this says that your thinking has not been in integrity because your beliefs have not been integrity. Capricorn. Capricorns are releasing self-trust issues. So when it comes to their boundaries, when it comes to trusting themselves, this suggests they have not been loving with their placement of boundaries. They've not been loving with their placement of boundaries to others. And because Capricorns have not been loving when it comes to boundary decisions, this has actually eroded their self-confidence. So by collapsing the old poor integrity trust structure or boundary structure, they will stand in a new integrity for self-esteem. And yes, Capricorn, that leads to money. So if you're a Capricorn having money issues, Sensei says it comes down to this integrity of self-trust. Aquariuses. Aquariuses are going to be very much affected by this because, like Leos, this affects them at the purebred point. Aquariuses are releasing marriage issues. Aquariuses have failed to love themselves in relationships. And in some cases, Aquariuses have failed to love others in relationships. And because there has been a lack of love with yourself or a lack of love with others, it has caused your character and your behavior to have integrity issues. So what this suggests is it's time to replace your self-love with a new mantra, a new glow, and what this will do is correct your behavior and have your character be a step 11, which is in integrity. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces are releasing integrity in the moment. So Pisces have failed to love themselves in the moment and have failed to love their body in the moment. So if you have failed to love yourself or your body, you could experience a health collapse or a work occupational hazard, by the way. So be very careful, Pisces. Definitely love yourself. And because of this lack of love in the moment and lack of love for the environment that they put themselves in, or the lack of love for the body that they are currently incarnating within, this has caused them to fall out of integrity when it comes to their own fearlessness. So what the astrology suggests is Pisces have been engulfed with fear and fallen to old karma and self-sabotage because they have failed to love themselves in the moment and love their body with integrity. Now, saying all this, I don't want to be a doomsday sayer, but at the same time, I wouldn't be a very good astrologer if I wasn't honest with you about what's happening. Do I believe this is going to put us in a bad position? No. I believe the universe has your highest good here. In fact, for the universe to call people into their heart's integrity is actually a sign that the world is turning towards the light, not the darkness. And the other thing I want to say is that people who are already practicing loving themselves and loving the world, this will be your window of opportunity. As the universe makes those who are not start to fall, the ones who are in integrity will of course rise or will be remain standing. So I think this is going to be a positive, constructive change in your life after it destructs the places where you are out of integrity. All right. So it's a pretty powerful year. Now, a couple of quick announcements to you. Actually, I have a lot of announcements, but I'll keep it simple because I know I can go long. For one, I have the countdown to 2018. I am still selling this. This is a 3-hour video and a spreadsheet that labels not just this eclipse, but every eclipse and every astrological event for the entire year, going into depth. So you can go into 2018 with your eyes wide open or your eyes wide shut. It's really your choice. You can find out more about this seminar at soulmart.me. And then I want to invite everyone to participate in our Facebook club, the NamasteToday.club. And in this club, I'm actually going to be releasing some things that are coming up on my personal horizon. For one, I'm going to be involved in a oneness movement. So I'm starting a Love Fest oneness movement. I'm co-starting it. I'm not the only person here. If it was, oneness doesn't mean about me. But this will happen actually in March in Denver, Colorado. So local Denver people, if you'd like to join me, it'll be probably on St. Patrick's Day, not completely sure. But the point is I'll be announcing when and where this is in the Namaste Today Club. So if you become a member of Namaste Today Club, you'll be up to date on what I'm doing. I'm also doing an online seminar about our North Node, and I'm looking for volunteers to be a part of that seminar. If you want to learn more about your North Node, again, I will put details in the NamasteToday.club. All right, friend, I wish you the best of luck with love and light for this eclipse. I know it has your highest spiritual good, so hang in there. Remember, friend, that I love you and to live, love, be.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.